Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for Content Marketing Conversations online. We've got a really exciting program for you today. We're going to be starting off with Chris Carr, President, CEO, and co-founder of Farotech. But before I introduce Chris, I just want to get a couple of housekeeping things out of the way, give you a little overview of what the event today will look like. After Chris's session, there will be about 10 minutes for audience Q&A. We'll be taking questions through the public Zoom group chat. So just submit your questions at any time, and then at the end, we will go through and ask them, and Chris can address them. After that, around 3:40, there will be a short break where we'll have a little bit of a networking breakout time. So you'll have the opportunity to, if you choose, meet with our Content Toolkit product owner, Ilya Unskol. Ilya, if you can give a little wave, that's Ilya. So he'll be in a separate breakout room. We'll put breakout room link 1 in the public chat as well at that time at 3:40. The other option you'll have is to go into a breakout room with Chris and keep the conversation going there. Or you can stay in the main session and play some really fun Semrush keyword games with me. So that's what'll happen in about 40 minutes. But now that that's all settled, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Chris Carr, President and CEO of Farotech.
All right. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. So what I was going to do today was sort of walk through what we have established as a comprehensive digital marketing plan. I just want to confirm that you guys are able to see my screen. It says that.
Try now. Are you able to share now?
Yeah, let me try now. There we go.
Perfect.
How about now? Okay, great. So before I do that, I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about my company real quick, just to kind of get that out of the way. So these are some of the companies that we've worked with throughout the United States, but in the Philadelphia area, some of the companies that you might know are, we do a lot of web development for Wharton School of Business, Rothman, and then also Penn Medicine. So when we started this company over 19 years ago, we really didn't have a lot of direction on whether we wanted to stay in the business to business space or the business to consumer space. And so we kind of let the chips fall where they may. And as it's shaped as of right now, we're almost evenly split between business to business and business to consumer. And the reason why I want to kind of bring that up is that a lot of this approach that I'm going to talk about, it's going to sound like it's very healthcare focused. I'm going to talk a couple stories about some orthopedic clients we worked with. And it's not because I'm trying to flavor this thing towards business to consumer. My goal is to kind of show you what a comprehensive system looks like. And the best way to do that is to kind of tell a story through the experience that you might even have. We all have hips, spines, knees, and things like that. We all have pain from time to time. And so what I'm trying to do is trying to tell a familiar story at the same time as telling a comprehensive digital marketing story. Okay, so in that process, when we start talking about a comprehensive digital marketing plan, these are some of the things that we're talking about. Obviously, we're talking about branding. You want to focus on your web development, video development, your sales cycle optimization, inbound marketing, and outbound marketing. In that whole approach content is going to be systematically weaved throughout each one of these approaches. So the reason why companies like ours exist, and the reason why a lot of marketers exist, is because marketing is moving extremely fast. And one of the challenges that you have is that, there's about 2 billion blogs as of 2020. That's one blog for every 7 people. You also look at every 60 seconds. This is the amount of content that's being pumped out minute by minute by minute. And so what happens here is that companies, large and small, commonly have to hire a marketing team to work on their messaging and on their system and things like that. And so what happens here is a lot of it lands on your marketing professional. Now, a term that HubSpot uses is called Mary marketing, and so we borrow that language as well. But essentially, I feel really bad for Mary, not because she's not qualified to do her job, but because she probably has a pile a mile high on her desk. She's essentially in a spot where even if she had enough time to do all the critical parts of marketing, it's going to require subject matter expertise that's constantly changing. And because it's constantly changing, usually what happens is that Mary eventually is going to need some support. And so Mary, you'll usually probably lean on somebody to maybe write some content. And then you might outsource some social media. And then after you outsource some social media, SEO can be pretty hard. You're taxing your web guy, and everything has to carry your brand. And so what happens here is you can wake up one day and you're either using multiple vendors, or you've got a really big overhead, marketing overhead situation in your company. And so what happens here is that the alternative to this is what we call a team-based approach. A team-based approach simply means that you would find an agency that has subject matter experts that work for the company, that have established a system and a process that works, and then you're assigned a project manager, and then you only really hire the subject matter experts as you need them. So in that process, when you compare, using multiple vendors or having a really bulky staff and compare that to using kind of an agency model, usually what happens is that the agency model will come in at a deep, deep discount. So over the last 19 years, we have built a systematic approach towards helping us generate leads, nurture leads into clients, and then convert those clients into brand ambassadors. Now, the reason why I'm calling it a system is because a lot of clients come to us and they're requesting solutions. Essentially what happens is they say, you know what, if I could get on the first page of Google, all my marketing problems will go away. And then they'll say, maybe if I was just good at social media or paid advertising. And if there's one thing I've learned over the last 19 years, you're one algorithm change away from losing everything. And the reason why I know that is because I've been on the other end of a bad algorithm change, where I have to change everything and try to understand, and you're reeling from some of these just really scary incidents. So what we decided to do a long time ago is to diversify, put all of these marketing platforms, all these marketing approaches under one approach. And then a digital marketing system is designed to have all of these elements working in harmony. So when I'm talking about these elements, what I'm talking about is the first thing we do is we recommend that when you work with an agency, that you develop a gap assessment. And I'll go into that in a minute. Something called usability conversion analysis, SEO, content strategy, lead nurturing, social media, paid advertising, video development, and analytics and reporting. So yeah, there's a lot of slides to this slide deck, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to focus on the ones that kind of matter most. So in the beginning of your process, what we highly recommend is that you work with an agency that develops a gap assessment. One of the challenges that we have found is that clients have really big goals, they have a really big vision, and then they'll go and try to work with a company or an agency, and they'll say, well, I need a quote, and they'll get a quote for maybe even $100,000 based upon 5 hours of research. So one of the things that I recommend, if you are in an experience where you're trying to rapidly grow your company, I want you to be in a scenario here where you take a really deep dive into what's working and what's not. Where are those critical goals? And what you should walk away with when it's done successfully is a 3 to 5 year roadmap that's going to help you scale your business by maybe 5 to 10x. Okay? In that process, you're going to try to develop short and long-term initiatives. You want to be able to focus on your brand. But when I talk about your brand, I really want you to be able to focus on your buyer personas, or in the medical case, ideal patient personas. So when we're talking about ideal patient personas, there's a lot of different ways you need to craft it. So if I'm Rothman, the first thing I need to do is I need to cast a wide net, because I want to capture anybody who's got pain in their spine or their hips or their knees or wherever. But what I also want to do is I want to get really focused. And when I get really focused and I focus on a certain niche, like for example, cyclists in the Philadelphia area, and I know every single detail about these cyclists, what I'm able to do is, this is the reason why Rothman likes cyclists is because they hurt themselves a lot. What I'm able to do is find these people by community, not by one patient at a time. Because let's face it, nobody goes under their social media profile and says, my name's Chris Carr, I'm 42 years old, I've got 2 kids, and I've got lower back pain. Nobody really does that. So what you need to be able to do is you need to be able to find out, where are these people? Where are they congregating? How are they communicating? And so what we did is we found certain exercises and things like that, such as cycling. And what we knew about cyclists is they often had a bad back, or they had bad knees, or they had bad hips. So rather than going after one client at a time, we found a community, and we really targeted that community. Not only did we go after an ideal patient persona, we also went after influencers, because the joke is that any cyclist with a bad back is kind of, there's a wife out there who's tired of hearing about it. So in that approach, what we want to be able to do is we want to make laser targeted marketing materials specifically for those communities. So that might be blogs or white papers or any of the above. But we also want to do is we want to integrate your sales and your marketing together. So what that means is that, let's say hypothetically I'm looking for an ideal persona that I'm going after, and I'm trying to find out primary care physicians who are going to refer patients to Rothman or Emerge or Premier or whoever. What I need to be able to do is I need to be able to diagnose their entire sales cycle. I need to find out every single touch point that they have. I'm going to say, you know what, I've got an original, I found out about a lead. I've got a first time appointment, a second time appointment. I'm going to write a proposal, and then in this proposal, I'm going to be in a scenario here where I'm either going to get a yes or a no. But what we need to be able to do as content marketers is we want to be able to say, well, where are people dropping off in the sales cycle? And then what marketing materials can we place in there to keep our audience engaged, to keep them on the hook longer, to get the right message to the right client at the right time? Okay? And then what you also want to be able to do is you want to connect your sales cycle to something like this, which is just a CRM, so that you can forecast revenue specifically. Okay? How do you do that? Well, the first thing you do is you need to jump into a war room, and you got to be able to talk about your patients very specifically, or your potential clients very specifically. So if we're talking about an orthopedic company, I need to be able to know, you know what, I need to have certain messaging for a high school soccer player, another one for an active 40-year-old male, and another one for a senior citizen. Because what I don't want to do is be in a scenario here where if I have knee pain, and then I start drip marketing to them about my spine center. That's how you market to an unsegmented market. And when that happens, your conversion rates, your open rates, and everything usually plummets. But if I can take one step further back and know that I have an audience that has an ACL tear, and then I start marketing to them about knee pain, essentially what I've done is I've gotten the right message to the right client at the right time. And there's no better person at doing this than this guy here, is Jack Canfield. Jack he wrote the book Chicken Soup for the Soul. And rather than trying to just kind of stay on the same theme, what he did was he went and developed a number of the same books, but he broke it down into certain buyer personas. Okay? Moving right along. The next part of our process is understanding how are our buyers converting. So in that process, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to take a deep dive into the analytics and the science behind conversion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be able to use heat mapping technology to find out where are people's eye movements going, where are they scrolling. So for example, on this page here, everyone thought that users were going to go to the orthopedic specialties page, and they didn't. They also thought, you know what? They thought they were going to go to orthopedic specialties. The reality is that they went to the services page. They thought users would go and check out these ambassador videos because they spent over $200,000 on them, and nobody went to them as well. So we had to change up the usability of the website to maximize conversion. My company is graded on one thing alone. How many appointments can I get from my clients? Well, you'll see that right in the middle of the page, which is slightly yellow, is this make an appointment button. If this is slightly yellow, this means that 15% of the audience didn't even scroll down far enough to get to the make an appointment button. The other thing that we're looking for here is that if the video outlines your key messaging and only 45% of your audience is going to that, then you know what? We have to move things around to maximize conversion. So speeding through the rest of the slides here, I'm going to test everything else in mobile. I'm going to see every click over a variety of different filters, such as new and returning visitors, what type of day, what part of the country are they from. I want to be able to tell my clients, and you need to be able to know, if I'm going to get out critical messaging, is it going to be better to get my messaging out at 6 o'clock on a Sunday night versus 10 a.m. on a Tuesday? Outside of just the contact us button, we also want to be able to figure out all the other KPIs that lead to conversion. I want to be able to see in real time, how is my mouse moving? How are users' mouse moving on my website? I want to be able to find out, is my website confusing? I want to look at my conversion funnels to figure out what pages are working and which pages aren't. I want to look at my form analytics to say, you know what, where did people try to engage with my marketing, or what did they try to fill out a contact us form? They got halfway through it and then they got spooked and they left. And then finally, I want to be in a scenario where I look at my video marketing. And with my video marketing, I'm going to be able to say, you know what, this is the part of the video that's too long. I'm noticing that people are dropping off. And then what I'm also able to do is I'm able to know by name who's opted in to find out how long or how engaged were they with my message. So Oliver here watched 98% of the video. And so I'm going to encourage him to join a webinar. Where Tim Bailey only watched 59%, but he rewound 3 times, I might be in a scenario where I'm going to drip market to him over the course of maybe the next 15 days and hopefully have him go to a pre-recorded video that he can watch in his own time. So what are we trying to accomplish with this? Well, let me kind of say what you don't want to do. Commonly what happens is that businesses either hire a marketing company or they go and they build a new website, and 3 to 5 years later, they build another website. And 3 to 5 years after that, they build yet another website, or they change marketing companies again. Now, we call that reinventing the wheel. What I'd recommend you do is to kind of think of it like the original Apollo rockets. With the Apollo rockets, they were essentially off course for 97% of the time that they were in spaceflight. But what they did is they made tweaks left and right to safely make it to the moon and safely make it back to Earth. So if we know that, how does that impact our marketing? Well, what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to develop a really strong foundation, and then I want to make micro tweaks to the messaging and to all the things that matter, such as, you know, the pictures on the page, to the messaging, where I put my forms, you name it. Everything to do with SEO, social media, paid advertising. And what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to make tweaks because I know the critical data that's come out through A/B testing, multivariate testing, and heat mapping. When I know this data and I'm able to make data-driven decisions, usually what happens is I'm making the spear sharper and sharper. And when I do that, we convert bigger, stronger, and faster. Okay? Moving right along to SEO. Now keep in mind that a critical part of our SEO strategy deals with how we use our tools. And Semrush is absolutely one of the tools that we use, not only for traditional SEO, but also for local SEO as well. So what I mean by that is that when you're looking at a search engine result, you have local SEO that's kind of related to these pin packs, and then other SEO that's basically organic SEO that's related kind of below those pin packs and below the ads. So the way I kind of describe our approach is something we call a VOD approach. And a VOD approach kind of works like the following. We're not looking for the biggest keywords in your industry. Okay? We call those keywords skyscrapers. In fact, we're going to use a tool like Semrush, and we're going to figure out keywords that have really high volume with less competition and a low keyword difficulty score. Because what I don't want to do is be in a scenario like this. The reality is that the top 10,000 keywords make up less than 20% of overall search. So what I don't want to do is I don't want to wrestle the big guys for those really big keywords. What I'd rather do is find the 70% of keywords that come from long tail keyword searches, these 4 to 6 word phrases. And what I want to do is I want to make the majority of my approach in the beginning based upon these misfit toys that drive a ton of traffic, but where my competition I never even see them. The reality is that when you take this long-term approach, you might get lower search volume, but the data shows time and time again that your conversion increases with long-tail keywords. So in that approach, the VOD approach, we're going to try to get on the first page of Google for all of those other keywords, those long-tail keywords. But when I've sort of become a mogul in that type of space, that's when I want to go after these larger keywords. Because what I'm looking for is what we call like a tipping point. And the tipping point essentially is, have I earned the right to be heard in the eyes of Google? Because every time I get on the first page of Google for for certain keywords, I'm increasing my domain authority. And when I increase my domain authority, it's easier for me to rank for bigger keywords later on. So let me kind of give you an example of how this works. So this is for an orthopedics marketing company in Philadelphia. And what you're going to notice here is that they wanted the keyword knee specialist in Philadelphia. The average SEO company was probably getting around a 25% increase in the number of keywords on the first page of Google. We were significantly higher. In fact, the increase of the amount of keywords we got on the first page of Google increased by about 408%. And the keywords that we were able to get on the first page of Google that were number one on page one, we increased by 247%. So let's go to the tape and let's find out whether it worked. So this is just their blog alone. We increased their blog traffic by 1,611%. We had roughly 63,000 people looking at their blog when we first started working with them. We increased that to over 1 million. From there, we increased their blog, their page views by 1,132%. So in the end of the day, we had 1.3 million page views going on just from their blog alone. So what we had to do is we had to figure out, if I can create traffic and it's quality traffic that keeps looking at more pages, does it convert? So this data here shows a 2-year subset of that approach. And from there, we were able to get 2,911 conversions. Because it was an orthopedics company, we only get credit for those first-time appointments. And the first-time appointment was valued at $300. So when you multiply the 2,911 conversions by $300, we were able to secure $873,000 worth of revenue from first-time appointments. When you take another step back and you look at all of their total traffic, we're able to increase their traffic about 38% year over year. And when you multiply that by conversions, 44,608 conversions turned into $13 million worth of traffic. Now, I'm not showing you these slides to be like, wow, Farotech is really great. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say, when you get the right tools in the right place and you get a systematic approach and you measure conversion and you keep A/B testing, what happens here is that you get really, really great results. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fast forward a little bit to how we engage. So obviously in the content marketing sphere, we're going to be in a scenario where we're going to try to push as much content down a funnel, and then we're going to push them to a squeeze page. A squeeze page is also called a landing page. In the landing page, I want to be in a scenario where I've captured all this individual's information, and then I know what keyword he used to find us. In this case, it was spine specialist in Philadelphia. He downloaded an ebook. Then our system started to drip market to him. The first one was about 5 back stretches that relieve back pain. The second one was about non-surgical options for chronic back pain. Then we wanted to be in a scenario where we looked at how to get content to him about a spinal assessment, which is delivered and opened. And then he got onto our newsletter. And from a newsletter, he went from a score of a 0 to an 80. So what have I done? Through the power of SEO and lead generation, I've used SEO, social media, paid advertising to drive tons and tons of traffic to my website. I found the exact ideal patient persona, and then I got a cookie on their computer and tracked every engagement and scored that engagement per client. Okay. Other highlights that I want to sort of walk through, deal with, give me 1 second here. Deal with social media. With social media, the hardest part about social media right now is that it's a pay-to-play market, which essentially means that you can try to drive as much traffic as you want organically, but if you're not paying Facebook for the privilege to reach your audience, there's a very good chance you're not going to even really get to them effectively. So I'll tell you kind of a story that we had. So we worked with a company that is the largest orthopedic provider in North Carolina, and they said, you know what, one of our divisions is killing us. They have 6,100 people that like their page. And what I said is they're not killing you because the organic reach right now is around 2%. So they have 122 people that see their content every time they post, and you have 72. So when you're going to start to think about social media and you're going to start to think about those things, there are certain things you can do. Obviously, we recommend that you pump out your content and you syndicate it through the major social media channels. You want to get more fans, followers, likes, and connections. But you also want to be in a scenario here where you use social media tracking tools to find out what's working and what's not. You develop a social media calendar so that you know that you're going to have content that's going out consistently, effectively. And then you can even put in tools like this, where I might be able to put in a keyword like knee replacement, and this will scour my whole social network, and I'll find people that might be talking about knee replacement in my social sphere. Okay. Other things that I want to walk through is talking about lead nurturing. So with lead nurturing, give me 1 second. I'm just trying to find the right slide. With lead nurturing, anybody who comes into our system with lead nurturing should get an overview email, features and benefits, cost of procrastination, testimonials and case studies, and then also next offer. And if they graduate all that, what you should be able to do is you should be able to develop a newsletter system to get to the people that are slipping through the cracks. But when you're connecting sales and marketing, and those are both integrated together, we also recommend that through a content marketing strategy that you are in a scenario where you develop slippage campaigns. And what slippage campaigns basically means is that through your CRM, you're going to document what's working and what's not. And then what I want you to be able to do is I want you to be able to figure out what are the possible excuses of why they might jump off the hook. And then I want you to be able to develop slippage sequences to continuously drip market to individuals based upon why they might have left. Okay. Give me 1 second here. In that sequence, every email that we do, we want to try to connect with infographics and then graphics that are going to tell stories about your products and services. So things that are related to your unique selling proposition. Okay. In the best case scenario, if we're not using infographics, then we are using bite-sized video. Because what we've found is just simply having the word video in the subject line has improved conversion rates or open rates by almost 35%. Okay. So a lot of times what people will say is, well, what does this kind of look like and what kind of content do we want to include? Well, the first thing that obviously we want to do is be in a scenario where we write really great content that not only inspires backlinks and other things related to marketing, but I also want to be able to know that there's certain audiences that engage with media in different ways. And so one of the things that we found out very, very early is that video was a critical part of our process. So what we'll do in our video process is we'll tie analytics in with that, that engagement experience. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to type in certain things into Semrush. And when I type in those keywords into the keyword manager tool or the magic tool, I'm going to see icons like this. And an icon like this basically says, hey, when you look for that keyword, when you go to that search engine result page, what you're going to find here is there's videos that are literally displayed on that page. So when you go and you write your video script or you optimize for video and things like that, you're going to have to segment your keywords to know what's going to work, where the search engine results going to be placed, and how do you create your videos to maximize engagement, but also maximize visibility. Other parts of that equation, obviously you want to try to develop some traditional videos. The funny thing that we've noticed is that engagement on your homepage is the most critical part of your approach. It's estimated that that goldfish have an 8-second attention span and humans have a 7-second attention span. So if you don't have a really critical homepage video that's going to capture their attention, you're going to find out that your bounce rates are going to be significantly higher than if you made the investment in video. But we don't want to just recommend just having a talking head. We recommend developing traditional video and merge other things like explainer portions into it, and then vector-based explainer portions into the video as well. We also recommend developing pages like this. This is what's called an asset page. And with an asset page, what we do is we put the most frequently asked questions or most commonly asked objections all on one page, and we answer those questions in 30, 60, or 90-second slots. So other things that we also kind of recommend that you look at implementing into your content strategy are infographics that tell stories and marry data with that experience. But because I'm short on time, what I'd like to be able to do is just kind of finish with one slide here. And the slide that we get the most is, what does the average experience look like? Well, first off, they want to say, how fast does it take, how long is it going to take to work? Well, the first thing that I want to say is usually after we've onboarded and you've gone through a gap assessment experience, when you're working with a team-based agency, usually you're going to start to see results around the 6-month mark. If content takes about 90 days to get on the first page of Google, then you know what? You want to take at least 2 cracks at it before you can start to really see decent results. And that's why 6 months is where you're going to start to see some decent results from your SEO time, effort, and energy. You can speed that up, obviously, with paid ads, email blast, and things like that if you have a decent opt-in list. But the final slide I want to talk about is, how does the financial investment usually work? Whether you're hiring internally or whether you're using a team-based agency or whatever you're doing, you want to know up front that usually your investment is significantly higher. You should be investing more to tighten up your website. You want to invest to create really great video, to work on your messaging, and to get your content engine in place. Then what happens is that you got to let the system work. You got to let it cook. And that means that you're going to develop really, really great content. You're going to A/B test it. You're going to measure everything. Because what you want to be able to do is be able to prove that for every dollar that I put in, I'm going to get maybe 5 to 10x out. And so that is when you get into the ROI experience. So we want to work with clients, and we encourage that you guys want to be in a scenario where you work with a team-based agency, so that when they are able to show you the data, that they're able to say, you know what, once we've gotten to this one critical benchmark, every penny we make, that is, basically every penny that we make, we're going to measure. And then as we grow as a company, we're also going to put more and more money into marketing. Okay. So I sort of ran out of time, Maddie, but what I wanted to do is just kind of end there. And then if they have any questions, I can answer them in the frequently asked questions section.
Thanks so much, Chris. Awesome talk. So we actually have time for one question, and it looks like we've got one question in the chat. Mark asked, Chris, how often is your company reviewing heat mapping and scroll mapping, and how much data do you need here to make a justified adjustment on a homepage?
I mean, that's a really great question. I think one of the questions the bad answer is it depends. And what I mean by that is that when you go and you make adjustments to your website, if you're making A/B testing, that means maybe it's 2 versions of a homepage. If you don't have enough traffic to warrant the difference, then you know what? Sometimes